Hello, everybody, and welcome to our May Legacy League. This is the semifinals of Even against Quirios. Even is on Bug Hogaak, and we got 4-color Stoneblade for Quirios. I'm Mr. Jack Dax, and I'm joined by our lovely co-commentator Oliver V. How you doing, bud?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. I'm incredibly hyped to get to watch this match. Of course, Hogaak being a traditional deck that punishes blue decks, right? Really kind of known for that, for being good against the Brainstorm Force of Will decks. And Quirio is coming to us with a really cool variant of Stoneblade, right? Esper Stoneblade essentially splashing red for main board Kolaghan's commands and Pyroblast in the sideboard.
Oh, I love it. There's a Pyroblast in the sideboard and a K command. I love this build. In the olden days, you used to play 4-color Stoneblade, aka 4-color Deathblade, with Deathrite Shaman. Long may they reign, and rest in peace, good prince.
Yeah,
Um,
go figure the mana is a little worse now that we don't have Deathrite Shaman, but that's fine because now you can play things like Raugrain Triome and and fetch for that with your fetch lands, and all of a sudden have a tri land. So whatever it takes, we'll be able to cast these K commands still.
you always forget that it also cycles through 3, so you draw cards with it.
Yeah, okay. I if that comes up, I think things aren't looking the best for Quirios. I'll be honest, but we'll see what happens down the line. I believe that I am going to really quickly pull this up. So Evan was our number 2 seed for the top 16, which means Evan is going to get, or I'm sorry, Even is going to choose to be whether or not on the play or the draw. I'm imagining that Even is going to want to be on the play, being on Hogaak. Um, Quirios, really interestingly, kind of tied for the 4th seed with another player. I believe tied with the Eternally Surprised, the Ninjas player in our top 8. So despite that really high breaker in terms of like the overall seeding, is unfortunately going to have to be on the draw in this semifinal game.
Oh yeah, no, I do find as a relevant side note, I'm really liking these playmats from the players. Brios is rocking the ever famous New Jersey GP playmat with the brainstorm art, my favorite of Mercadian Mask. There's so many different arts you can choose from, but that's just an old favorite that a lot of people love. I really like Evan's playmat as well. It took me a couple seconds to realize that was not a YouTube button. It is some kind of meme compilation, I think.
It is pretty fantastic. I believe that's American Heart Association playmat.
Yeah.
So we got some rep there as well. Even starting off strong with a suture supplier, but unfortunately, really not getting any of the good hits. We're seeing 2 Caleful Strutties and the Putrid Imp going down in the bin. And now we're seeing a turn 2 fetch land with Misty with no crab out. So this is not exactly the start that Even really would love to be going with.
Oh, definitely not. This
Besides,
is not where you want to end up.
seeing a fetch for Dryad Arbor, very likely passing the turn back here, potentially playing another Stitcher supplier, or could be going ahead and playing out a Cabal Therapy.
Ooh, another Stitcher.
All right, let's see if we're able to get some better hits here. Something that's actually relevant to the graveyard.
Vengevine, Crab, and a Gravecrawler.
Those are 2 very live hits. Of course, this deck is set up in a way. Oh, is there an in-hand Hogaak? Oh, this is
Oh,
fantastic.
Vengevine triggers are coming.
Oh, that was such a great hit with the Citrus Supplier being able to
Mm,
get a Vengevine, able to
mm.
make so the Hogaak from hand is castable, and then also we're swinging in for the 4/3. Oh my goodness! And after Quirios spends the turn 1 swords on the Citrus Supplier, this is a really difficult board state to be looking down.
Yeah, I do not want to be in this position. It is not enviable at all.
The only things that really Quirios has to get out from this situation in the main board is another source of plowshares. There are 2 Snapcaster Mages main board, but unfortunately, this being turn 2, we don't actually have access to that snapback path or snapback swords plan yet. But looks like we're seeing Stoneforge go and get Bill or go and get Batterskull, trying to stabilize on life a little bit.
I was about to say Baleful Strix. That's a very interesting
I
card
know,
that can
right?
get. I didn't know Baleful Strix had an alternative mode being an artifact equipment creature.
Hey, you know what? They both start with B. Okay, I was pretty close. And we are swinging in hard.
I'm assuming that was
Attack
the block on the Stoneforge.
looks yeah, and it looks like blocking the citrus supplier, kind of what even wants. Able to get 2 bridges there.
Double bridge.
Oh,
No, not what you want to
eh,
see.
but just passing back. So cracks in. Quirios is all the way down to 3, and this is where another white source and swords would be fantastic here. So you could swords and get in Batterskull to block. Well, let's see what happens.
Vengevine
Oh,
hardcast.
the hardcast Vengevine. That's fantastic.
The
You'll love to
secondary
see it.
the secondary alternative mode, and then we're gonna see a scoop right away. I mean, you really can't do much about that explosive start from even. I mean, the Hogaak after the second Stitcher, and you're just like, yeah, I guess life be
Hitting the
like that.
Vengevine felt hitting the
Life
Vengevine felt
life
really good.
really be like that.
Man, that was fantastic. And really, this is exactly what Hogaak's meant to do, right? You want to be going turn 2 or at the very least turn 3 Hogaak and also be swinging in with the Vengevines. Just apply that early pressure, tax the Source of Plowshares. I gotta say, even though it didn't work out well on sourcing that initial Stitcher supplier, I do really like that play from Quirios on turn 1, especially when you see some really bad hits on the initial one. I do like spending the swords just to make it so it isn't going to be the thing is, Stitcher Supplier is almost an ancestral recall. Not
Oh,
really, but like you're churning through your deck to such as high velocity and getting all those cards in your graveyard. Basically, finding the key graveyard pieces, the Bridge from Burlows, the Hogaaks, and the Vengevines. That trying to prevent that death trigger to let even dig even farther. I do like that play. It just unfortunately got punished by the immediate turn 2 Hogaak with Vengevine swinging in. But let's go ahead and let's start talking about sideboards. Let's start with Quirio's list. Quirios has 2 Fatal Push, 2 Pyroblast, 2 Surgical Extraction, 1 Containment Priest, 1 Fracture, 2 Meddling Mages, 1 Kaya Orzhov Usurper, the good old 3/1 from the third Ravnica block, 1 Liliana the Last Hope, 2 Plague Engineer, and 1 Sword of Fire and Ice. What are you liking out of this sideboard plan?
I really like meddling mages here. I mean, you're playing against Hogaak, so you're gonna be naming some really fun things where you don't want them to come in. I would probably be naming Hogaak here. You really don't want that cast. Um, Kaya could be relevant here. You need to get rid of Stitchers and Grave Crawlers. Um, just really depends. Stitchers, Grave Crawlers, Hedron Crab, and the other crab if they play the crab. Playing Engineer could be relevant, but it's just too many different names that you could be running into. Um, Honestly, I probably want to go for Surgical Extraction and maybe a Containment Priest, a Melding Mage, and maybe Kaya. It's a weird board.
I would agree with you for the most part. I will say that Kaya represents this really interesting thing where it isn't good on your initial stopping of the Hogaak deck, but it's really good in making it so you can't be outground in the long game. It does not prevent the explosive starts, but what it does do is it makes it so when you both get into that late game top deck thing, where Hogaak actually kind of does well in this in grinding against blue decks, recasting back the grave callers from their graveyard, right? Or whatever they really need to kind of eke out little bits of value and then be swinging with like the 2 power guys. That's where Kaya does shine, is preventing you from being able to be ground out from the Hogaak deck. And also of note, Quirios, of course, participating in our 3rd invitational recently, beginning of May, really did show us the power of Kaya in terms of clocking the opponent and getting that ultimate to just lethal. But I do have to say Kai is absolutely coming in. The surgicals, the containment priest feel good. Containment priest, of course, is unable to deal with Hogaak, but it is able to stop the Vengevines from coming in, which is quite relevant.
Oh yeah.
And then I think your point on meddling mage is dead on. I think that you just want that body, and you don't expect much removal coming from Hogaak. And of note, these players do have access to each other's lists, so they know what the sideboard plans that are able to come in. So Quirios knows that the only way that Even has to deal with a meddling mage being on the board is if there's abrupt decays or assassin's trophies coming in as well. But let's jump over to even side. There is
Sure.
1 Dark Blast. Oh my goodness, I love me that card as an Entomb target. No Entombs here though, unfortunately. 2 Thought Seizes, 2 Abrupt Decays, 2 Assassin's Trophies, 4 Force of Vigors, and 4 Leyline of the Voids. What do you like out of this sideboard plan?
Honestly, because they know the other plan, they're not bringing the Force Vigors. It's just really not that relevant. If this was a rip deck, yes, bring in the Force Vigors, but it's probably not that relevant here. Same with the 4 Leyline Voids. I don't see those coming in. I mean, you're playing against a deck that doesn't really use it. I would probably see the Abrupt Decays come in. Abrupt Decays are most likely going to come in, maybe an Assassin's Trophy, if that. Dark Blast is also relevant here because most of the creatures are 1/1s, with a few exceptions. So we got a 2/1 Snapcaster, Baleful Strix is 1/1. The only thing that isn't is the Hull Breacher and the Stoneforge.
I do potentially like Thoughtseizes as well when you know that your opponent is on the surgical containment priest plan, as basically a way to kind of check if you're able to really go deep in the tank without being blown out by a surgical. Of note, surgical is not a great card against Hogaak. A lot of the times it lines up where you're able to hit one of the big bodies, like prevent Hogaaks from uh, like prevent the combo off with Hogaak and altars. But the way that it works with priority a good amount of the time is that they're able to cast the Hogaak from the graveyard when they first bin it there before you're able to actually get a chance to target it. So I do like the surgical isn't the best, but you do want to respect it. So I can see the Thoughtseize potentially coming in. But again, that's far more for combo matchups. A lot of the time, that when I speak to Hogaak players, why they like having Thoughtseize in the board. But I absolutely agree that Decay feels like a slam dunk to bring in. You're going up against a Stoneblade deck, so that's both able to slow them down and then also able to deal with the meddling mages that are known quantities for you.
I mean, 100% agreed. I mean, the only thing I think against the Thoughtseize is if you're on the play. If you're on the
That's
draw,
true.
sorry. If you're on the draw, it's just like one of those cards. It's a tempo card advantage. You really don't want to have it when you're on the draw. It's why you cut dazes when you're in blue red delver or any delver variant on the draw because it's not as live.
That is very true. Let's see. Looks like both players being ready. I unfortunately was not watching mulligans there whatsoever, so I'm unsure of people's hand sizes. But we are seeing a flooded strand and pass.
Fetching some kind of colored land sources, either black or red. Gonna see the underground seep force. Of note, there's one swamp, three bayous, and three underground seeps on.
Yeah. Even does not, or Hogaak does not play a bunch of basics. That is for sure. All the lands need to be tapping for 2 or be Dryad Arbor, and then you got to have the one single black source to fetch to
There
if
are
you
no
get a
wastelands.
trophied.
There are no wastelands. So.
That is true. Both decks rather greedy with their amount of dual lands for sure. We're seeing a turn 1 careful study.
Yeah, that's something I didn't really consider. You could also just have Assassin Trophy both in on that side because you
That's heads
don't
up.
really care.
Really interestingly, Quirio's bringing in Pyroblast, which neither of us really saw coming. Let me look at this list a little bit. Really, you're able to hit the crab and the careful studies as your only targets, but Quirio is making the decision to bring that in. I'm very interested by that logic, but it's definitely paying off here.
I mean, it is either a kill spell or it's a kill slash removal spell or a counter in this matchup. But it only hits crab and careful study. I mean, careful
Yeah,
study
exactly.
is something you do want to hit. I mean, but again, I'm not sure the relevancy, in my opinion, of having one card for sideboard slot for 8 cards in a math doesn't check out in my head at least.
It's I guess it's all about the cards that Quirios took out.
Yeah.
Quirios does have a kind of a glut of cards that can be potentially bad. The Force Negations. I mean, Force in general isn't great in this deck, or against this deck, but I think you still need it. The Hull Breachers, the Teferis are not amazing, but they are playable. And the K commands. There's enough cards that are kind of marginal that I can see bringing in the Pyroblast over them. But I mean, we definitely paid off initially, right? The turn 1 answer to that careful study was really good in terms of kind of slowing down Even's initial movements.
Yeah, I imagine here the Force of Negations went out, maybe one Force of Will, um, and maybe a Hull Breacher. That's what I imagined was taken out. Um, I saw a lot of cards were coming out in the sideboard, so I imagine it was both Force of Negations because they're not super relevant. Keeping in some amount of forces is probably decently relevant, and then cutting down maybe one Hull Breacher potentially, because I want to keep my Clings no matter what. Mulligan's command is still relevant because if your Baleful Trick somehow dies, getting it back is always a nice 2-for-1. Um, discarding cards is not that great, but dealing damage to someone's face is always fun.
So we are seeing a Hogaak getting slammed down there, being able to delve or just being able to convoke 3, so able to keep the bridge from below in the graveyard there. However, the force actually felt pretty decent there. Um, it is, I would really love to see from Quirio's side a surgical or ability to just basically nab this Hogaak so you don't have to worry about it any longer. But until Evan gets another like dig spell, whether it's a careful study or a Stitcher supplier, you do not need to worry about this Hogaak for at least, I think, a single turn cycle.
It is interesting to note that probably if you're in Curious' position, you would not want to actually use Surgical for its free mode, or you pay 2 life. You probably would want to play for the black mana on that one.
Yeah, I mean, that's just it with Hogaak, right? Like there is 4 power on the board that's threatening to beat in at Quirios, even if Quirios is able to deal with the Hogaak and the potential Vengevine threats.
You really don't want to be looking down that barrel.
And just playing land go. Looks like Quirios has 2 cards in hand still. Of note, while we were talking about the potential ability to bring out some Hull Breachers, there is still one Hull Breacher at least in. We see that being pitched away to the
Hmm.
Force of Will. Again, you're able to hit the Careful Study, and oh my goodness, does that feel good to flash in a Hull Breacher in response to a Careful Study. Go ahead, I'll make 2 treasures, and you can discard 2 cards. That seems great.
Kind of fun.
Seeing a swing in for
Gravecrawler.
4 and playing the Gravecrawler. Well, we have the little guy beatdown plan going now.
Good plan. I mean, they're not going to block for much. Cling the Dust, I imagine, hits the. Yep. You do not want that going off anytime soon.
Oh, absolutely not. Of course, you also get to draw a card by
Draw
hitting the
cards.
bridge because it is a non-creature. So you get to go ahead and cantrip and have that threat going forward. Where if you think that Evan or even is going to be getting close to casting that Hogaak again, just go ahead and escape your own Clang out of the graveyard.
Batterskull. I'm going to gain some life, hopefully.
The hard gas batter skull. That's fantastic.
And you know
Yeah,
it's
that
coming.
is very good against this current board state of little tiny beaters.
You know it's coming. Beatdown plan is real. This is a really good way to just crawl your way back in the game, block, um, just continue to block for days as you can.
You can also attack in really without any cost because the majority of these creatures cannot block. It turns out, Bloodgas and Gravecrawler, of course, both cannot. So there's only the Putrid Imp and the Dryad
Powerful
Arbor in terms
starts.
of lands that are able to.
You would like to play that, so I'm assuming Evan is gonna sack.
Yeah,
Even. Wow, you even got me saying it too. Dang. Even will sack and enable the Baleful Strikes. That card is way too relevant. It also is a flyer of note. Is somewhat relevant.
I mean even just the cantrip body is fine. The big issue is that it's another body in the way of your guys. But now we're just staring down this Batter Skull and really looking like there's no way around it at the moment. Just passing back and just electing not to attack in.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much you can do. Only real response here is if you did bring in a Force of Vigor, or if you did bring in Assassin's Trophy. You can also use Replicate on the germ itself, but that doesn't really help you too much. It will stave off a turn, but it won't help you in the grand scheme of things.
Kurio's attacking right away, getting that good old 8-point life swing there. Oh my goodness.
You
Yeah,
know,
this is getting harder and harder to race through, and then getting a ponder going. If you are on Quirio's side right now, what are you digging to? What do you want to see with this ponder?
um, hmm, how many cards in hand? Because that really makes my decision choice. I'd really like to see probably another Pyroblast if I brought it in, or a Spell Pierce. Because what I don't want to see is a careful study. I really
I
don't.
don't believe there are no spell pierces in the list at the moment. Um,
I want
but
to see
so in,
some sort of counter spell. Or if we still have Force of Negation in, I'd really like to see that.
yeah,
And we're one off playing Force of Will Hardcast.
Drown in the Lock is live here,
Dragon Lock
technically.
is live, yes. I did forget about that, but that is really good against Hogaak here. You just want something to not resolve for the careful study, assuming this will be a careful study.
Oh wow.
The devil and it appears.
Not necessarily the card that was drawn there, of course, because there
Yeah.
is one other unknown at the moment.
Aquarius is really hoping they found a counter spell. If not, this really, really sucks.
Well, of note, if this careful study resolves, Hogaak is castable.
Yeah, that's why it should not resolve at all. You really don't want that happening.
Yeah, just enough, right? So Hogaak or the careful study being one card, 2 cards being discarded, making there be 5. One of them being the Hogaak, 3 bodies on board, so you can tap the 3, exile the 4 non-Hogaak cards, and get Hogaak on the field. There has been no Source of Plowshare seen so far that, which is a scary thing if you are relying on the Hogaak beat plan.
Ironically, you can mess with it if you have Swords of Plowshare.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean,
Just a
right? Or
tad.
you can, or you mean you can mess with the math by removing one of these creatures?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can start messing with some math. You ideally would name Putrid Imp here because then you don't want them to discard in response. Ooh,
Two
that's a
bench finds.
Vengevine. Ooh.
Oh, land. Play back the Gravecrawler. Is Putrid a zombie?
Um.
It is. It's a zombie imp.
Ooh. Yeah, I definitely would bring back the Gravecrawler and then
Creature one.
get your Vengevines.
Well, that is the first creature to enter this turn, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And then, unfortunately, you have to get rid of the Vengevines for you to be able to play out the Hogaak as number two.
Yeah, it'd be like that. You can't win them
Li-
all.
Little unfortunate, but at least now you have the Hogaak in play. Again, Source of Plowshare is just massively punishing here. And that's white mana. Yep. Gate 8. Hey, at least that's two Batterskull attacks that you don't have to worry about anymore.
Oh yeah. But unfortunately, you also have a Batterskull to deal with still at this point, and you're not getting through it unless you're going to start discarding cards to Putrid Imp.
You're not racing that.
Not happening.
And two Vengevines seem to disappear there with the Hogaak Delve, which means that your actual threats to be able to go over the top of the Batterskull are getting very few and far between.
Yeah, you
Um,
really, really need the Assassin's Trophy here.
Either that or other Hogaak in theory, but again, we're just running the risk of there's two Snapcasters and three more swords.
Oh, there's a Meddling
And
Mage. I'm imagining that's going to name Hogaak.
yeah, this is interesting. What else could be named? There is the potential of it being Hedron Crab or Citrus Supplier. But no, be naming Hogaak. Thanks again to Chaotic Bear. Chaotic Bear was our recorder who went and recorded this match for us. Sat down with Quirios and Even to record this, get all the life totals adjusted, be able to put up graphics like that on the screen so you and I know what's going on. But big thanks to him for kind of being the man behind the scenes, running everything. And Even scoops it up,
Oh yeah.
realizes that it is not happening now with that meddling mage. Do you think sideboard plans changed at all for Even?
Possibly. He might bring in, even might bring in Force of Vigor. I don't think even actually brought it in originally. There is that kind of questionable play of like, do I bring it in? Do I not? How scared am I of equipments?
I mean,
Because
it
most of
is
the time you
scary.
bring that in because you're scared of the rips against a blue-white deck.
Yeah, the rips or the ley lines. I do think that it'll be Assassin's Trophy over Force of Vigor if we're just afraid of singleton equipment. Um, Basically, because two for warning yourself against a control deck is going to be incredibly hard. But that is a possibility as well. I
Uh,
do you think Thoughtseize has potentially come in when Even's on the play?
I mean,
We kind of touched on that
yes,
briefly.
yes and no with Force of Vigor. So the weird thing is that Force of Vigor is also kind of a kill spell in this list because we're playing three Baleful Strikes. Baleful Strikes are artifact creatures for everyone who forgets that. So you get to murder a 1/1 that draws with Death Touch and then also an equipment. So
That's true.
it does come up more than you would think. But you're also only playing two equipment, so in total there's only 5 hittable targets. Really just depends on what your game plan is. I would rather see the double Replicate, double Assassin's Trophy. Much better game plan.
But what about Thoughtseize? Do you think that comes in for Even now?
Yeah, I think Thoughtseize is going to come in because Even is now on the play. I think one Thoughtseize and maybe a Dark Blast. I mean, you really could change up a lot of different things. It just depends what you want to move around.
The Dark
Um,
Class would be interesting. Your only real thing to hit is a Baleful Strix, right?
no, you can hit Snapcaster.
Oh, that's true. That is very true. We haven't seen that yet in play, but of course, these players have access to each other's 75s. They're able to look at each other's deck list before today's match, and then also in sideboarding as well. So he is aware of the Snapcaster Mages being there. What about Quirios' list? So we saw the Pyroblast, which we were not expecting, with there only being 8 targets, but it worked out quite well in stymieing that early careful study. We did not see surgical extractions, but we expect that. We did not see Containment Priest, but once again, we're thinking that that's likely in, and we did get to see the Meddling Mages. Do you think anything changes at all?
No, I don't really think there's going to be any changes. I do think of note that we also aren't considering from even side. It's not the best idea, but it is possible with double Dark Blast. You could do Dark Blast on your upkeep and then dredge it to Dark Blast again to kill any of the 2 drops, like Stoneforge and Hull Breacher, if it does come up at all.
Yeah, I do think that you want to be as proactive as
Oh yeah,
possible. I honestly even think the Thoughtseize line or bringing it in is questionable. Again, that's really you're playing against this deck that already is trying to one for one your big threats and then just kind of not care and invalidate your little guys. So I wonder how much bringing in Thoughtseize plays into that. I think it's definitely reasonable to bring in, but I could also respect not playing and not doing the Thoughtseize line and just trying to be as proactive as possible. Just get that turn 2 Hogaak on the play. And we're
oh,
seeing, oh, there we go. Well, we're seeing the Thoughtseize.
so 2 lands, Stoneforge, Swords of Posture, Brainstorm, and a Cling to Dust.
Oh, yeah, that's hard. I imagine you take at least
Take the
one
Brainstorm.
Swords. You think take Brainstorm? It really
I
depends on Quirio's, or it really depends on Even's hand. If Even's on Hogaak plan or on Vengevine plan. Um,
Yeah, I mean it really depends here. So on one hand, on one hand, if you take one of the Swords of Plowshare, you know there's another Sword of Plowshare. It just depends on how much you're going in on a single threat. On the other hand, if you take the Brainstorm, you know they're not going anywhere. Taking the Stoneforge Mystic is also smart here because then you know that they can never attack you. They will just have search effects, cling to dust, and double Swords of Plowshare.
yeah, that you can hopefully grind through. That is an interesting choice. It really depends on what Even's overall plan is here. The great thing
Yeah.
is being on the Hedron crab plan, which we have not seen so far. That is a great way to overpower this claim to dust. Seeing fetch land enter, hitting bridge for below as the relevant card.
Yep. Also relevant here is if we get into a Cabal Therapy.
Yes, definitely.
Double hits Swords of Plowshare, I imagine,
I
if
imagine
possible.
Quirio is contemplating swordsing the crab in response to this fetch land activation, but no, it looks like it's going through.
Thinking about a different card here. Took out the Bayou and then is like, I don't think so. Not looking at the Bayou today. I do like Quirius's life total counters. They're pretty cool. They're the little things that you're seeing above.
Yeah, it looks like we are fetching in response to the fetch land and
Yeah,
swordsing the crab before this land enters the battlefield. I like this a lot.
that's
Just
fair.
because the crab is exactly the way that even will be able to overpower anything that Quirios is doing. You guys can outvalue. Again, in this deck, milling 3 is very akin to drawing cards. Like you're just getting more resources for you to work with the amount of cards that are able to be brought back, like Vengevines, the amount of flashback cards, the grave crawlers, right? Um, it is very easy for a crab that has the chance to whatever mill 12 over 2 turns with 2 fetch lands for that to accumulate enough resources that you cannot one for one against Hogaak anymore.
Yeah, we're gonna see the Scrubland come out because we need to play that black card in our hand that we all know is Cling to Dust. Most likely gonna hit, I imagine, the Bridge from Below.
Seems good. There's nothing else that is really that relevant at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Wall Therapy might come out. Grave Thrall, that's fine. Yeah, I imagine we just cling here. We got what? We got an island in hand, and then we know there's a Swords of Plowshare and a Brainstorm. I really don't feel like brainstorming with only an island in hand. Does not feel good. I mean,
Well,
again,
we
we
would
have
need to play the island anyway, right? Like we
yeah,
don't have blue mana at this point, so you already have to spend your land drop on that. I agree. Holding the brainstorm for a while is exactly what you want to be doing, right? The later you play the brainstorm, the better, right? That's the old mantra.
yeah. Honestly, I would like to play. I don't know why he's not doing it. I would like to play the Cling to Dust here. Maybe Quirius is hoping to draw a fetchable land, and then playing the Brainstorm. Essentially, oh, we're gonna fetch now. Okay. We know that you have a Swords of Plowshare, and we know that you have an island. We know that you have a Brainstorm in hand. So we know your whole hand at this point, I believe. Because we've seen everything else.
Yeah, I very much would like waiting a turn to deploy this or to go ahead and fetch. You can go island, brainstorm, and have the active fetch land up. But again, it depends on what Quirios wants to be doing and how afraid Quirios is of an explosive turn from even on this next one. Go ahead and fetching now.
We're gonna. Oh, okay. Yep. We're gonna swords. Get a Tundra. Yep, that's fine.
I like its aggressive use of Source of Plowshares, removing the initial threats. That Gravecrawler is a little less threatening than the Hedron Crab itself was. However, that is a recursive body if you're removing it in any other ways besides Source of Plowshares, which means it is recastable as your second. If you, it's recastable as your second creature spell to cast if you're able to get Vengevines in the graveyard.
Citrus Supplier coming out. Always scary to see that card.
That card is real good in this
There's
deck. Let's see. We hit
Hogaak
Hogaak.
and a
Hogaak. Okay.
Hogaak.
Other body. Okay.
Are we
Well, we have a
convoke it?
Hogaak coming down.
I imagine we'll
Two
delve
cards
into
in hand.
convoke, right?
Yeah, it looks like this Putrid Imp is on the stack. Quirio is very likely considering what is the correct force of will target. Do you spend it on this Putrid Imp or do you spend it on the Hogaak? Uh,
I don't think.
I'm willing to bet we
I
go
don't
ahead and wait
think
for
they
the
have.
Hogaak to go on the stack.
I don't think they have a forcible though. We know they have an island. We know they have a brainstorm.
Well, that's true.
We know two
Well,
cards in their hands, and I think there's only a third card that we don't know.
they definitely were stopping there at that moment before the before even was going to have the spell resolve and get priority to be
Yep.
able to cast again. Maybe just potentially bluffing or just wanting to really spend that moment to think a little bit about what was going to be the correct thing to do.
We're making the proper piles called the Hogaak piles and the other pile.
The cards that are relevant in the graveyard and the cards that are not.
Oh
What's
yeah.
the other card that's kept there besides
I think it's a
the
land.
second Hogaak?
I think it
Okay.
is a land. I think it was literally just where are my Hogaaks and where is anything else I don't care about.
So land Snapcaster Mage is a scary thing coming from Quirios here. Even really is again on the Hogaak beatdown plan. That is the line that we're going for.
Yeah, Landscape Caster is a scary line to see. Not a situation you want to be in either, from the even perspective.
At the same time, Quirios also does still have this brainstorm to try to dig for one of the two remaining Source of Plowshare effects.
That's
We
pretty
have
desperate.
unfortunately seen two already. Yeah. And of course, you can take a hit from this Hogaak. That's
Yeah.
not the end of the world here at all.
We're gonna cast it to Fairy, maybe? Or Plane Engineer.
Ooh, Plague Engineer naming zombie. I like this. Go ahead and wipe those two 1/1s off the board. You can then attack with Hogaak. It is only a 7 power. Trade with the Plague Engineer and have 5 power hit on through. I mean, honestly, this Plague Engineer is looking real good right now.
I mean, Hogaak again, though. It's common.
Yeah, but you need so you're going to be able to trade away with it. And Even's going to need to be able to deploy other creatures onto the board to be able to get access to the Hogaak again.
I mean, that's assuming that Even is gonna swing with the Hogaak soon. Yeah. Ooh, what are we Cabal Therapy naming?
You know there's Brainstorm.
Yeah, you're guaranteed a brainstorm. Oh,
Oh, there's Swords.
that's funny.
Oh,
That's funny.
that's actually...
You know,
That makes this a headache.
ironically, do you sacrifice your Hogaak for naming Cabal Therapy for Cabal Therapying the SCP?
You might need to, really, unfortunately. The issue is, I think you attack in, hope that Quirios blocks with the Plague Engineer, so that you can have your. The issue is you have so many of your enabler bodies, the bodies that you need to get the Hogaak out. So many of them are zombies and 1 toughness that a Plague Engineer being on zombie when you have no other guys on board means that you're incredibly unlikely to ever cast the Hogaak again anyway.
That's true.
So I do think, as weird as it sounds, I do think you want to attack and try to trade this Hogaak with the Plague Engineer rather than cashing it in for the Cabal Therapy to trade with the Swords of Plowshares.
There's just so many weird lines with this too. I mean, it's just incredibly unfortunate.
Bayou Ultra? I
Nice.
imagine that we cut combo. Or we at least hedged.
Oh, we got a
or
blood
we
ghast?
went down.
Okay.
Okay, I like this now. Now I really like this. Now we're able to eat the swords.
Vampire Spirit. Yeah, the ever forgotten Vampire Spirit.
It is not a zombie, it turns out.
Yes. For those who forget, Bloodghast is a spirit vampire.
Ripping the brainstorm off the top seems pretty good. Even choosing to not attack with the Hogaak, keeping it back.
Never didn't have it. Well, you know that there is an equipment in their hand soon, and you know there is a Force of Will that's dead.
I mean, they potentially got rid of the Force of Will with this brainstorm and fetched it away here,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't be surprised if they kept it. And there's a Batterskull. You need to deal with this Plague Engineer, unfortunately.
Ugh,
I'm just passing back.
I
Man,
wonder
this
what they're
Plague Engineer,
drawing.
we were up in the air, but whether or not we were going to see it come in, but it definitely has proved itself as being very, very good in this matchup. At least in the way that this played out, right? Isn't great at stymieing the initial the initial assault that Hogaak is able to put forward, but really preventing even from being able to grind out against it.
Gotta
Like
see it
this
pass
Hogaak,
back.
yeah, I mean, it ate 2 cards immediately, and then is also just threatening this Hogaak, and Hogaak is unable to actually start attacking in.
Ooh, I wonder what even has drawn at this point.
Watch it be Vengevines. That'd be terrible. That'd be so, so terrifying.
Oh
Or
god.
so sad.
It'd be interesting to see if they were just waiting to bait out the batter skull so they could assassin's trophy it. Always a fun thing to note.
Yeah.
I think we're thinking about a brainstorm or something. 1 card in hand? 3 cards in hand. Snapcaster mana, maybe.
Or are we seeing if we can drown in the lock? This Hogaak
That's funny. That's funny.
would be amazing.
Attempting a drown in the lock.
Crio's deep in the tank here, trying to figure out exactly the correct line moving forward.
I think
With
there's
2 cards in hand,
three
drown the lock. Show
cards.
it to me. Show it to me. Oh, it's another
Yeah,
Stoneforge.
Stoneforge. So we're gonna go back to 3. I imagine that we're gonna get our GTA now. Unless we're gonna purposely fail to find because we have it in our hand.
Yeah, goes ahead and get the GT. Can't imagine the Sword of Fire and Ice came in this matchup.
Yeah. While drawing cards is relevant, it's not relevant enough to the point where you need it. We're really gonna burn our mana down here. Brainstorm. Maybe we'll throw the GTA away and scare people.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we do. This is the classic Stoneforge, or the Stoneblade value train, right? Use your Stoneforge to go get an equipment that you then brainstorm away and play another Stoneforge to then go get it. You know, that is just a power play. To find the same Shite twice in a single game, oh my goodness, that is the nuts. That is what I'm here to live for.
I'm imagining Aquarius is trying to get a land here.
Yeah.
Got a Volk. Living the dream.
We have access to all 4 colors of mana now. Wait, do we? Yeah, we do.
Mm-hmm. Got black, white, blue, and red. Living the
Quirios, of
dream.
course. While we have 4 color Stoneblade down there, Quirios has been calling this the no green value pile deck.
You know it.
And, well, it has been a lot of value so far. We're finally attacking with the GAC.
Oh, we're actually gonna get damage him.
I imagine
Aquarius.
this is a block of the Plague Engineer.
No.
Oh, no,
We
it just goes in. Sweet.
we got damage him. We are fetching for something though. Are we gonna Dryad
Uh,
Arbor? I wonder. I don't think you want it here. Maybe we're just hard casting a Vengevine?
if you have, ironically enough, if you get Dryad Arbor and you get Alter, I think you win here. Assuming that this isn't forced blue card. But I also do think with the altars were very likely trimmed on. A lot of times with this deck, you go down on the combo plan and just do your beat down Hogaak and Vengevine plan. It is unfortunately a little too fragile. But no, we're delving for another GAC.
Getting rid of the current GAC.
Interesting.
Um, Current GAC should go away. It is a legendary
Legend
creature.
Duel.
It is a legendary creature. Contrary to whatever opinion people may have, it is a legendary creature. It will go away. Although I wonder if Kurios is thinking about countering it. So maybe that could be a question. Okay. No. It seems like there was some kind of talk about you do know it's a legendary creature. It'd be really busted if it wasn't.
Be quite good. That would be amazing.
I mean, if I remember correctly, Hogaak got Bridge from Below and a couple other things banned in Modern because of that.
Yeah, first it got Bridge from Below, and then it got itself banned. It turned out that banning the Bridge from Below was not enough.
Turned out the
It
Gak
essentially
itself
when
was
Bridge from
pretty good.
Yeah, it is quite good. If I recall correctly, that modern format was essentially all the Hogaak decks going bigger than each other by playing the Bridge Ultra combo plan, and it made them kind of worse against all the other decks in the field, but then they banned Bridge, and so they couldn't do that one-up plan on each other anymore, and just made the deck better by not being able to play Bridge and Below anymore, which is kind of crazy to think about.
I just think it's really funny that people were sleeping on Gak and then they played it like I think it was at like a GP or something, and it was like the most busted thing ever. Like I think of it as the as what happened to Modern when Gak came out and it just like completely busted everything. I think it's comparable to Underworld Breach. When that came out, people were like, "Oh yeah, you know this seems fine." And anyone who's ever played Yogswell is like, "No, this doesn't seem fine. Are you nuts?"
Hogaak was a dark day for sure, and same with Underworld Breach and Legacy. Although I'm not gonna lie, I really enjoyed that period as somebody who plays a combo killer deck. That was my overall win percent was better in the Underworld Breach meta than it was in the subsequent metas after it got banned. But
I will
whatever,
say I won
to
a
each their own.
lot. I won a lot in Underworld Breach meta, but that's only because I played an absurdly annoying version of Death and Taxes.
There you go. Just really tax them out. Yeah, that's just it. You just had to be a combo killer, and it felt amazing there, right?
Yeah, I
Like,
played 4 to 3 Revokers. I played double Chalice.
oh my god, that's great. I'm here for that. That
I,
sounds fantastic.
I,
That next level metagaming. But it turns out in modern Hogaak era, you could not do that. You could not beat the Gak deck. Even
mhm.
if you came in with your like multiple ley line, 4 surgical also, just like literally bring 13 of your 15 cards to try to beat Hogaak, you were still making it a 50-50 matchup. So it needed to go, to put it lightly.
Oh yeah,
But really, Quirios is really stabilized. We're at the point where we're able to play around with the vial counters and just be swinging around this Hogaak, right? Where this Gak is unfortunately priced into priced into not attacking,
unfortunately.
because if he chooses to, Quiros can just choose to block it when it's eventually time, and then can just be racing with the Batter Skull.
Oh yeah, it's not a fun place to be. I wonder what we're thinking here.
Well, there was definitely a little bit of reading Shite there to make sure that we understood all the modes.
Yeah, +2, -1, and gain 2 life for each
What was it
creature.
that you said? A Jite makes any creature a planeswalker. Is
Oh
that what
yeah,
you said
oh
in when
yeah.
we just commentated the Frosty Morrison match?
It's the Kingmaker Planeswalker Maker.
There we
Uh,
go. I love that way. That's my new way of thinking about Jite from now on.
it's one of the greatest Planeswalkers ever made. As some
Which
people
is two
call it.
mana.
As some people
That's
call it, it's the proto planeswalker. I mean, it does 3 different things. It's got different effects, and it has a somewhat loyalty counter to it, and it doesn't go away. You
we
just
really in the tank. We live in there right now.
yeah.
Oh, just passing back.
I mean, anything with 3 modes to it and have some kind of weird effect to it that has like some kind of plan around it is a planeswalker of sorts.
You here for charm, a planeswalker, 2 mana, instant speed.
You know,
uh this
Red
feels.
Vine. Here we go. We vining.
You want to trade with the germ here, I guess. Um,
I mean, all depends on what you're trying to trade for. I'm
mm,
assuming that we'll trade for really anything here.
but it won't really, right? It just gets eaten by the germ,
Yep.
but it forces a charge counter off of the Aether Vial to shrink it down to a 3/2.
Off the GT, yeah.
Yeah, but it looks
Unless you
like we're
want to
not doing the
keep
big
it and then bounce it back. Yeah, I don't know. There's weird lines. You could also equip it if you get 1 more land. You just beat face with people. Like you could equip it to Plague Engineer.
the Batter Skull.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Then it becomes a 7/6, right?
6/6.
+4/+4, and it's a 3/2, right?
It is a 2/2.
2/2, yeah.
Yep.
It was a pretty beefy boy.
Bring the Battle Skull back to hand with all that empty mana.
Might as
I
well.
am really, I really am interested why we didn't see the charge counter come up there to make it so the Battle Skull just ate the Vengevine, but regardless, I don't believe it's going to matter that much.
Mhm. Oh, careful study. Not a card you want to be seeing.
This is what even needs. This is where it starts.
Ironically, getting a Cabal Therapy here is really funny.
Oh, oh, that'd be great.
Cabal Therapy land go.
Let's see what's getting bid here. Even had a few cards in hand. I'm unsure exactly how many were there beforehand, but
We put a Hogaak away and a Bloodstained Mire.
okay.
I have no idea how many cards are in hand. I assume it's probably 2. Oh, we're convoking? Or are we double swinging? I assume we're double swinging.
Double swinging here.
Yeah, ironically, you can bring... Oh, okay. No, this is bad.
Snappy Sword.
This is bad news bears.
Go ahead and gain 8 off that again, but who cares? If you're swordsing away Hogaak, you are willing to give them that 8 life.
I think 2, yeah. I mean, interestingly, you could have blocked and then put the 1/2 and use the charge counter to -1/-1. That way you kill Bloodghast.
Or you could have even just done it beforehand, right?
Yeah.
Like, or just not blocked and go ahead and pinged it off. But Rio's really wanting to hold on to this one charge counter. I do have to say, I've been really impressed by the Plague Engineer staying this late and how many cards it's just locking up. Like any sort of Putrid Imp or Putrid Imp, Grave Crawlers are essentially all turned off. And this Titra Supplier technically is, you immediately get the mill 6. But I've been really liking how Curio has been holding back and avoiding and just not taking the bait and trading the Plague Engineer for a Hogaak.
I do wonder where the Ball Therapies are. I really would love to see one by now.
I
Think we're gonna
saw
see.
one last game. Was that last game?
That's probably another zombie name. Could be
Yeah,
naming
this then
Vampire
turns
too.
out.
Yeah,
Oh, there we
Vampire,
go.
yeah.
And now we can start swinging in uncontested.
Yeah, nothing's ever coming out ever again.
I'm not sure if we're going to equip the Jite here or if it's going to be bring in Batterskull. Either line feels totally fine, honestly.
Yeah, there's only 3 card types in the deck that you can actually cast now. Besides Dryad Arbor. Got Hedron Crab and Vengevine, and then Hogaak. That's never
Yeah,
happening.
that is unfortunate. Again, of course, Citrus Supplier is just mill the top 6. So that is likely worth casting, but Zombie and Spirit being the other name. Kraken for 6, get even down to 19. And we have presented a clock now. This is a 3-turn clock because of the pumps with the Jite.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is not where you want to be whatsoever.
This is brutal. You're really hoping to get an Assassin Trophy here. Yep, let's get
Okay.
rid of the one that says zombie. Spirit's
I
not
imagine
relevant.
that's correct.
Spirit's really not that relevant.
Let's see what happens.
We're
In the
getting
Jite.
okay. That's a choice. I really
I
would like to
can,
play my cards at some point, but I guess you don't want the Planeswalker Kingmaker.
yeah. And I can respect that in that it does alleviate the clock slightly.
Yeah.
And again, the threat of activation on your own creatures, it does lock things up. So, for
Oh,
instance, if that had gotten the counters on it, it was then going to make it so crabs were not going to be able to do really anything. They would just be removed right away as soon as you play a land drop right after you get a single activation out of it. It also was going to prevent Vengevine from being able to be top decked and played.
is that double Bridge from
Um,
Blow? No, Bridge from Blow and Bloodghast.
yeah.
You really, really, really hope to hit that zombie or the spirit. That way you
I
get
mean,
double
of
kill
note,
units.
also hitting the Jite there prevents your own bridges from disappearing from the graveyard,
That's
right? If
true.
you had gone ahead and hit the Plague Engineer, that trigger would have gone on the stack and you'd have lost them all. And I think that is what you're kind of relying on for you to catch back up in this game.
Yeah, claim.
But now they're gone anyway.
Yep. I was gonna
Another
imagine that was gonna happen at some point.
Yeah, and then we have another crunch in for 6, getting down to 13, along with bringing in Batterskull likely at the end of turn.
I would imagine so.
Crunch down to 13, threatening 11 on the subsequent turn.
I think so. I mean, you still got what, a Vengevine and a Hogaak in the yard.
Yeah, but you have the bodies to enable it.
You need double crab, I think, right, for Vengevine.
Well, Benjamin can be any 2 creatures. It doesn't matter
Yes,
if they
but
die
everything
right
else
away.
is everything else is gonna die right away. Careful study. Ooh.
All right, let's see it. Part of the cards, baby. Let's see these. Show me the discard. What are you looking for here? Like, what is the 2 cards that you can chain that makes it so you're able to get there? We see the altar. There is at least one altar still in. And if you have, I guess this means it's technically still possible for you to get there. Do we have 2 Hogaaks still?
I think we have a Hogaak still. A Hogaak.
We would need 2, if I recall correctly, to go off well with the combo. But we need 2 we need 2 convocable bodies, which unfortunately that is just Dryad Arbor.
I think right now I'm looking at 4. Then we're looking at 6, so that's 10.
Potentially 11 if we attack with the Stoneforge, go down to 2.
Yeah. Go down to 2, yeah.
We need, all right, hear
You
me out.
need the hardest win here.
We need fetch land and somehow the ability to get the Vengevine out of the graveyard because the only convocable those are the only cards that convoke at this point
Yep.
because of these 2 Plague Engineers, and no, that's not going to be it.
Oh
So
yeah.
in theory, if we'd been able to get Dryad Arbor and get the Vengevine out of the graveyard into play, then we could have convoked the Hogaak, and then if there was a second one in the yard, be able to start going off with the altar. But unfortunately, that's just not in the cards. Quirio's taking it down really decisively with this 4-color pile, really showing us how good Plague Engineer was in this matchup in
Oh
preventing
yeah.
the long game grind from even.
Seems like even brought in only a double Replicate. I don't know what they took out, but well
Well,
fought
there was
game.
Thoughtseize, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know what the other card was though.
Yeah, and of course, the recording is paused here at this
Yes.
point. It looks like Chaotic Bear stopped recording at this point, so we can't see what else happened
Mhm.
there. But really, that was a fantastic match. Even going incredibly fast in that game 1 on the play, and just crashing in with the turn 2 Hogaak. And Quirio's kind of picking it apart slowly in these other subsequent games, and just getting there by really correctly identifying what parts he needed to interact with, and how to prevent that long game grind out. It was a really fantastic match to watch.
Oh yeah. Well, props to Quiros. Quiros will be on to facing Frosty in the finals.
Yeah. Big
Cool.
props to Even also, right? So
Oh yeah.
Even being the 2nd seed, took down his pool, then went up and faced against Glazed on Esper Mentor in the round of 16, took up Aldrin or Tensai, kind of one of our really well-known and one of our invitational winners
Mhm.
in the round of 8 when Aldrin was up on Grixis Delver, and then making it all the way here to the semifinal. Really impressive run by Even, I do have to say. Really, really well done, honestly. This was a fantastic match to watch.
Honestly, it was super great. Well, that's it for us. Check out if you want to join our Discord. There will be a link below. Our Twitter and our Twitch also. Give us a follow. Watch us on Twitch every Saturday and Tuesday. Once again, I'm Mr. Jack Dax. I've got my lovely co-commentator Oliver, and we hope that you'll be with us and let us be your local meta. Thanks,
Take care,
y'all.
everyone.